What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode on the Next Gen Geek channel. I'm your host Darius, and in this video we have a lot to discuss about, and one of those things, as you can tell by the title, is reviewing Mortal Kombat. Yes, the new movie Mortal Kombat has just debuted, and let's just say I have a lot to discuss about it, and I want to try and keep it. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen it, watch the movie first, then come back, because I will be talking about spoilers, because I feel that for me to do reviews, I do have to talk about spoilers. I do have to go into the nitty-gritty of certain details of the film. And so overall, when I saw this movie, I had a fun time, right? My first impressions when I got out was that I had a fun time. I laughed, I enjoyed it, I loved the gore, I loved the action, that sort of thing. And that's what I was really expecting. My expectations going in was I was already excited, I was already hyped. But I knew, for me at least, I was like, you know what, I'm expecting some really solid action, some awesome fatalities, gore, that sort of thing, with a meh story. And you pretty much get that. And the thing for me is that I'm a big Mortal Kombat fan. I love Mortal Kombat. I love the lore and everything about Mortal Kombat. And the thing is, even though I knew I was going to get that, I was disappointed that I expected what I was going to get. And we'll get into why first, but let's start off with some of the good and the things I did like about this movie. And one of the things is, of course, the action, the fight scenes, and the choreography, as well as the blood and gore. It is very reminiscent of Mortal Kombat from the games, as we all know and love. So that was great to see in its full glory. I was lucky enough to see this on IMAX, and I have to say, seeing the world, seeing the blood and the gore all just basically blown up is an absolute beauty to watch and to see. And that's pretty much some of the good right there. Another good I have to say is Sub-Zero. Joe Taslim absolutely nails it as Sub-Zero, and I really like the direction of them making the Sub-Zero more not just a villain, but also more of like this cold demeanor to him, and he's focused, and I really enjoy that about Sub-Zero. He has almost horror elements to him. Every single time when he was on screen, I actually got chills down my body, because I'm like, oh, he's about to mess stuff up, he's about to mess people up. I absolutely enjoyed it. Hiroyuki Sanada as Scorpion, absolute perfect casting. Really, with the amount of time he was in the movie, he did an absolute stellar job. Kano, which a lot of people are saying he's a standout. For me, he was, but only on a comedic level, not necessarily I liked him. Of course, I'll always love Kano because of his character, and I think Josh Lawson does a phenomenal job as Kano as well, right? And so, those are some of the good I do have. And unfortunately, I do want to talk about some of the negatives, and that happens to be the main protagonist of Cole Young. As we have all expected, as us Mortal Kombat fans, we were very hesitant of this movie, mainly because they introduced a new character called Cole Young. So essentially with Cole Young, he is a washed-up MMA fighter, and he's sort of thrown into the world of Mortal Kombat. That's really what it is when you watch this movie, and that's really how it feels, is that he's just tossed in there without having any real significance. And so they try to explain, essentially, that he is a descendant of Hanzo Hasashi. Right, he is descendant of Hanzo Hasashi. The Hasashi bloodline continues on through Cole Young. However, even that feels tacked on and not fully fleshed out. This is why I think Cole Young is honestly one of the biggest negatives of this film, mainly because he feels tacked on and not really a part of this universe, nor does he want to be in it. And he does say that throughout the movie, that he doesn't care about this, he doesn't want to be in this. And so, as the viewer, I didn't really get a sense of why I should be connecting with this guy. And I know a lot, and I know the director, as well as Greg Russo, one of the writers, has been saying that they want newcomers and they think Cole Young could be that character. And I heavily disagree, and I don't think this movie really did justice with this character. I think the character overall is very dull, very boring. And even Lewis Tan, unfortunately for Lewis Tan, he did not have a lot to go with this character. I think this character could have been fleshed out a bit more. However, because of them saying that they want newcomers to be brought into this universe, I don't think a new character was necessary. I think they could have easily done that with Liu Kang and Kung Lao. We focus on those two and their journey in Mortal Kombat in the first film. And this is where it gets a bit messy. Like, this film overall, it is a very messy film. The writing is pretty bad almost across everywhere. It is not that cohesive and that coherent of a film necessarily. And of course, as a Mortal Kombat fan, it is disappointing they went this route and they wanted to go this route instead of trying to take itself maybe a bit more seriously. They do have a lot of comedic elements, and that happens to be Kano. Kano carried a good chunk of the movie, and I think that is a really bad thing when you have Kano carrying the movie and not your main protagonist, right? Not Cole Young. And Cole Young didn't really feel that special other than he's part of the Hisashi bloodline, and that is it, necessarily. And Lewis Tan, I really like that guy. I like he's good martial artist, but his acting chops he did not really bring it in this film. He lacked the charisma I thought Cole Young needed to really shine in this film, and this film really shows like the issues are very obvious. And that's heavily in the writing. That's heavily in the dialogue choices they even choose for certain characters. And this even goes to Shin Han, who plays Shang Tsung. I love Shang Tsung. I love Shin Han. I think that is an interesting casting choice. However, I think they underutilize him to his fullest. They heavily underutilize Shin Han as Shang Tsung. And Shang Tsung did not feel as intimidating and as powerful as he should be. I understand it is the first movie, and this is another issue I have with this film. They're focusing so hard into relying on a sequel to tell a more bigger story. And I think for a franchise like Mortal Kombat, one where we had the 1995 movie, the original, and the other movies in between, and how they weren't received well, and really Mortal Kombat as multimedia and film format hasn't necessarily been beloved as much as it could have been or should have been. Obviously, I really liked the first Mortal Kombat movie. Again, that's just like a guilty pleasure movie, and I think this is the same thing for me. And so with all of that said, they did change a bunch of lore things. Obviously, one of the lore changes is Jax losing his arms. We see it in the trailer, we see it in the movie. And I will say the trailer did show a bit too much of the film, which is why I can understand why some people feel disappointed and maybe lackluster, mainly because they show too much, or if not, they showed a lot of the stuff. Yes, there are some interesting surprises. There are some fatalities that are from the games that I really enjoyed. But again, overall, narratively and writing-wise, and just as a film, it didn't work. Cole Young and various other things. And one of those other things is another change to the lore, which is them introducing something called the Arcana system. So in this movie, basically, this is a prequel to the actual tournament in a sense. The tournament is not in this film. I understand why a lot of people don't like that. I'm kind of fine with it if only they did it right and they did it well. And they didn't, which is the unfortunate part. And so what they decided to do is that everyone who has this birthmark, the Netherrealm symbol essentially, the birthmark on them, have a sort of hidden power and ability that they need to train and manifest that it will come forth. Okay, that's understandable. However, this is where it heavily falls apart, to be honest. And this goes into them essentially saying, hey, we'll do this. So for example, Hanzo Hasashi has the mark, right? And if you don't know his story, he dies, he becomes the spirit of vengeance known as Scorpion, the demon of vengeance known as Scorpion. And so we see that he has the mark. He dies, however, it kind of almost implies that his ability, his Arcana, is Hellfire, but it's not Hellfire manipulation, but it's not really fully explained. And this is where it starts just falling apart overall, right? Basically, with this token, you have powers, essentially. That's how they explain Liu Kang being able to manipulate fire, that he just has a symbol and he can control fire. Kung Lao, how he can teleport, that sort of thing. That, like, they gave a very weak excuse to certain elements and really how people get abilities or what makes them unique. You know, Kano, clearly, as we know from the lore, from the games, he has a cybernetic eye that shoots lasers. In this one, he has the Arcana that he unlocks in the film. It's too video game-esque. That's the thing. And it's not even that well integrated. And so, basically with him, his Arcana is his laser eye. And it's like, this is just so poorly implemented because it kind of just takes the uniqueness out of some of these characters. You know, Sonya Blade, she is a exposition walking machine. I think Jessica McNamee did a really good, solid job portraying her. I think they could have, again, here's the thing. This film, they could have done more with these characters, and that's the unfortunate aspect. And that's the unfortunate aspect. And so what I think they should have done, or not really just that, but now the thing with the Arcana is that if you kill someone with the Mortal Kombat system, the Mortal Kombat logo, that logo is now transferred to you. So, obviously with Sonya Blade, she eventually gets that symbol, because she doesn't have it, and the sonic wrist cannons that we all know and love are her powers. And again, I'm not too fond of that, because you could have done something else, but you chose to just make things more complicated to try to explain to people how people have powers. You don't have to explain. People have abilities. That's understandable. The second you start saying there are people from other realms, that in itself, right, and you just focus on showing the culture, showing these realms, showing how these people operate, that in itself would be just fine, instead of trying to complicate things and tell people you need this thing to have this hidden ability of some kind. It's confusing because you don't see other characters having that symbol. You don't see Natara having the symbol. You don't see Melina having it. So it's very odd that they would approach it like this, and it's not even fully it's not a fully fleshed out system. And this even goes to Jax. As we know, Jax loses his arms, he gains the new ones. His new arms are actually growing out of him. Okay, oh, it's his Arcana. When he gets the big metal arms, it's his Arcana coming through. Again, to me, it felt like a certain laziness and cheesiness that was unnecessary, and I'll also preface this. This film does not have any character development. Or character arcs. It truly doesn't. It's just placed in the middle of the action, and that is it. And that's another unfortunate aspect. And so one of the things, even with Jax, and this is where I was like, dude, you didn't have to do all of this. It felt like they're overcomplicating it by trying to simplify it. And it really didn't work out for this movie and for certain characters, and why these characters are iconic. You know, Jax with his metal arms. What you should have done is right after he loses it, maybe Sonya Blade finds him, brings him back to like the special forces, and being the general that she is, she's like, you know what, weaponize him, give him metal arms. And let's say Jax initially didn't want that. He feels like, you know, he doesn't want cybernetic arms or anything like that. He feels like a monster. He's not really true to himself. And now you have a good, strong, at least a stronger, possibly inner conflict with Jax that is a bit more believable, where Sonya is approaching from a perspective where it's like, yo, these are people with abilities. You need to be a weapon for this. And I'm sorry that you lost your arms. I saw an opportunity and I took it. That's sort of almost what I wish they went with. Again, that's just a loose idea I have in mind. Obviously, it should be fleshed out a bit more as far as how Sonya gets from scene to scene and the overall narrative. But considering the overall narrative they were going with, I think they could have done something like that. They could have introduced the special forces to their full potential. Sonya, as a general that we all know and love that she is, she could have been like, hey, he has metal arms, I need something too. And that's when she gets her sonic pulse wrist cannon. Like, it's so... I'm not saying it's simple and easy to do, but just taking some of these elements should be relatively easier to implement in an overall narrative structure for what they were trying to go for. Again, this is a very quick movie. It's a very short movie, and that's also one of the downfalls, is that they rush a lot of things and they don't take their time. And unfortunately, Cole Young Lewis hand does not really help elevate the dramatic elements as they were trying to really put in this film. This film, overall, like I said, I had a fun time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Would I see it again? Yeah, because like I said, I had a fun time. Just because I had a fun time and I liked it doesn't mean I can't be critical, and this is me being critical. And of course, there are so many other things I want to talk about. I like Liu Kang. I like what they were going for. It's just, that Arcana system felt so tacked on, so central to everything they're trying to explain, that because of that, and Cole Young as a character, and just the overall narrative structure and how things went from scene to scene, and Shang Tsung happens to know where everyone is all the time, kind of made it, as far as a film and a complete package, it is not up there at all, in my honest opinion. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really I had fun with it. You know, I liked it. I had fun. I had a lot of fun. I liked it. I would want to see it again. I really like the... Oh, one other thing. So the fight choreography. Really solid fight choreography. Whoever was editing it, however, or the editing of these fight sequences felt too quick and too rushed. Almost like a 1, 2, 3, stop. 1, 2, 3, stop. And they should have just shown the fight choreography going to it. Just shown that, like John Wick. Just show the fight sequences. Show these martial artists. You know, Louis Tan is a martial artist. You know, Hiroyuki Sanada, a martial artist. Joe Taslim, who plays Sub-Zero, is a martial artist. They should have shown a bit more of that fight choreography. Again, instead of editing so quickly to where it just felt so out of place. And again, dialogue did not help a lot with this film. Overall, like I said, I had a fun time. It could have been better. Would I say it again? Yeah. Do I recommend it for you guys to see it? I think if you're still on the fence, bite the bullet, see it, and make your own opinion about it. Again, me personally, I enjoyed it. I liked it. However, it has a lot of narrative structure and writing problems that need to be addressed, especially if they're planning on doing a sequel. Again, they very much leave it in a way where they want to make it into a franchise. And they shouldn't have done that. They should have focused on, hopefully, in telling a more grounded, coherent, intimate, cohesive story instead of trying to franchise this movie up when you don't know how it will perform. Again, right now, it looks like box office is closing into its budget, so it's roughly 50 million made back. It had like a 55 million budget apparently, so it looks like it just made, just broke even. However, making a profit, that's going to be a different thing. Again, what did you guys think of Mortal Kombat? Let me know in the comments down below, and of course follow me on Twitter to let me know as well. I'm your host Darius, and I'll see you in the next video.